Are ghosts real? Several recent encounters suggest there might be more things in heaven and earth than we can dream of.
So are werewolves just a Hollywood creation, or do half-man, half-wolf creatures really exist? Now, tonight, we kick off our Conspiracy Theory Month series, which was a...
The legend of the vampire actually goes back for centuries, and it exists in some form or another in almost every culture. In fact, some people believe the first vampire story was in the Bible.
Well, for decades, only crackpots and crazy people believed in UFOs. That's what I thought anyway. And then in recent years, it turns out that governments have been taking them seriously all along.
Try and clear up an ancient mystery with the help of a prominent veterinarian who says she can prove that Bigfoot exists and that he's related to all of us.
New reports, 5 pilots coming forward over the weekend saying they've had multiple mid-air encounters with high-flying, fast-moving objects.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Celestial Oddities, Pair of Normal Guys podcast. I am Frater Crow.
I'm your co-host, Daniel James.
We are pleased to have you listening in tonight. If you are a first-time listener, stick around. We're sure you'll find something you like. If you are a return listener, thank you so much for your patronage and always your support. You can check us out across any platforms that you would like, from iTunes to iHeartRadio, Spotify, Deezer, Spreaker, CastBox, you name it, we are on it. Listen where you feel most comfortable. Click the like, share, and follow button to help move us up the podcast community rankings. More people to discover the show. Keeps you in the loop as new shows air, and gives you an unfiltered pass to our past archives. So for anybody that's a fan of the supernatural and paranormal, there is something for absolutely everyone out there. And like I said, we bring you a show each and every other week. I don't know what that means. Every other week, me and Dan bring on a show talking over different paranormal topics, from the man from Taurid to organism B52 that's coming up next week, to even interviewing guests. And tonight we certainly have an awesome episode with a guest on the show. Dan, how you feel about tonight?
Pretty excited. I'm a big fan of shamanism, and I happen to know several gentlemen who are powerful shamans, so it'll be cool to talk to a gentleman who is an expert in the field. Absolutely.
I look forward to bringing him on in just a moment. If you've missed our last few episodes, feel free to jump back into our archives and listen. There's a lot of great content last season and this season. We are happy to be on episode 6 of season 2. Pretty wild to think we've already done 6 episodes this season, Dan.
I'm looking at that, and I was like, where does the time go?
Where does it go? Because I was thinking the other day when I was typing up the events page, I'm like, episode 6 already. I'm like, what is going on right now? Let me take a look.
We might have to extend the length of season 2. I don't want it to end.
I think we will. I think we probably got a lot of stuff coming up. Hey, Chris, thank you for tuning in. How does the sound tonight? Because, folks, we are working with a different setup than normal. We had some complications last episode with the callers that we had on, and we couldn't all hear one another. Only I could hear them and them hear me. So we still ran a pretty clean episode, but there was some blemishes there, and we apologize. Bringing on that new element to the show is great, but there was just a little bit of complications. We have that figured out tonight, and we got a brand new system we're running through, so our sound should even come through a little bit differently as well, a little clearer. But we are excited to bring on another guest this evening. Our guest is Lepus Rex, who is an urban shaman and exorcist. He had reached out to me on social media, just kind of talking to me about spirituality and magic, and started sending me pictures of the works of pyromancy that he's done and the spirit faces that he captured in flame. And they were pretty phenomenal, and then just started telling me these stories of some of the cases that he's been on and the exorcisms he's done, and it was just very interesting, the knowledge he had to share. It was a no-brainer to want to bring him on. So I'm going to go ahead here and actually give him a call. I'm going to pull up my phone. I like to do this raw, where we just do it live on air instead of having him ready. Let's see, pull him up, and let's give him a ring.
Straight raw dog in it.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, is this Lepus Rex?
Yes, it is. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing? This is Frater Crow from Celestial Oddities, here with my radio co-partner, Daniel James.
How you guys doing tonight?
Oh, we're doing good, man. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a little bit of a crazy week, but I found a little baby bird that fell out of a nest. I'm trying to nurture it back to health. Is that what you call it? Rescue it?
I appreciate that. It's good to see people trying to do good things.
So it's not all icky-bicky demons and yucky gin and stuff. Sometimes there's good normal parts to my life, too. It's not always fighting demons.
There should be some normalness to it as well. You have to have that to kind of keep grounded, so I'm glad to hear that. And we were certainly glad to be able to get you on the show tonight and talk to you a little bit, pick your brain on who you are and what it is you do. Why don't you tell, the listeners out there a little bit about yourself, how you got into spirituality and working with spirits, and kind of a background on yourself.
Well, I would say, number one, I was not looking for this as a career, and I'm still kind of not looking for it as a career. I mean, it's not something that there's a lot of money in. There's certainly a lot of danger to doing it, including like bringing stuff into your home and bringing stuff back with you that kind of clings on you and stuff. So I wouldn't really wish it on anybody. It just kind of happened to me. And I was just kind of dragged into it, basically. My childhood was a little bit filled with magic and mystery. My mom is a psychic and a tarot card reader. And my sister's also like a healer, and I've always had serendipitous things and little psychic moments, so I've always kind of been special, but I really didn't know what I was really good at. You're right. I always kind of felt like, I have these spiritual gifts, but is there something that I'm supposed to be, like a healer? I kind of didn't realize I was supposed to be an exorcist. So it all started, really, a guy was in my party. It was after an event, and I had come down, and I started looking at this guy, and all of a sudden I started almost downloading information in my brain about him and having these visions about him. And I said to the man, what happened to you? Out of the blue, I just intuitively knew. I said, what happened to you as a child? What was the trauma? And he said, I was raped by my father. So I was like, ooh, okay. This is something here. There's a reason I asked this question. So I started trying to be therapeutic. I felt so horrified that the man was sexually abused. And I was like, okay, let me try to help him. And I've done a lot of work with psychotherapy on myself. I've been in psychotherapy. I was kind of traumatized myself as a child, so I kind of knew a lot about dealing with traumatized people. And I seemed to be helping the man, this man, to the point where he was like literally crying. You know, when people have that big cathartic tears that they've never had in years and years and years, this man is like crying and having this beautiful healing moment. And then all of a sudden he goes, you know what? This is a lot for me. Do you mind if I take a nap? Because I'm getting really tired, and I wanted to thank you for helping me. And I was like, God, man, I wish thank you, dude. I'm glad I could. So the man closed his eyes, and as he's closing his eyes, I'm watching him drift. And right in between the moment, there's a magic moment in between being awake and asleep. And in that magic moment, something jumped out of the man. And it wasn't the man anymore. It was something evil and horrible. And it was coming at me. And, look, I've seen people, I've gone to Grateful Dead shows and Burning Man. I've seen people tripping out on acid. I had a roommate with multiple personality disorders. My sister had manic psychosis. I've seen people psychotic, and this was none of those things. It was, and it looked at me and said, who the hell do you think you are? And I was like, whoa, what the, can I curse on the show?
You can, it's unedited,
yes.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is going on? Right? And every hair on my body stood up. My arms stood up, like the back of my neck stood up. And this guy is coming at me, coming to attack me. And it's happening very, very fast. Now, I guess I'm I'm religious, but I believe in spirits, and I mean, I don't follow religion, but I do believe in like spiritual authorities, let's say. And in me, I was like almost like crisis thinking. I was like, oh my God, who don't demons like? It's just like really quick in my head. I go, who don't demons like? I said, they don't like Jesus. I'm Jewish, by the way. I said, well, I know they don't like Jesus, and I know they don't like Archangel Michael from the movies. Like, I'm reaching out of my ass for this stuff. So in my mind, I go, oh my God, Jesus, Archangel Michael, somebody help me. Please help me. Like, Calgon, man, help me. You know, I was just praying so hard for anything as this guy is getting up and attacking me. And then all of a sudden I hear a voice in my head, and the voice said three things. It said, you are the four words. You are the authority. Just like that is what I heard in my brain. You are the authority. And in that moment, I looked at this man. I said, you know what? You're his demon. You're not my demon. And you aren't invited in my house, so you can get the fuck out. And he went, I said, you heard me, dude. You weren't invited. Now get the fuck out. You understand? And it was like, taken aback. And then the man rolled his eyes again. And he woke up. And he was crying. And he goes, oh, my God, thank you so much. You got rid of this thing that's been on me for many years. And no one's been able to do it.
Well, I mean, and I have seen myself a few different times in my paranormal research and investigation. I have seen cases of possession, and it is strange that it will, whether it attaches at that moment or it has been there and it has awoken, it will take over the host in alarming and strange ways that it is still that person, but it certainly is not. They talk in different type of dialect. They might even be talking the same sound and same words as the person you knew, but they're not talking as the person you know, the way they're talking.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't a man. It was like a caveman. Like, who the hell do you think you? It was like a really deep voice. And it was challenging my authority. Like, it was like, remember, it was like, I heard that voice, you are the authority, and this thing is challenging my authority. Like, who are you to be telling me to go away?
Well, and I think that's an important thing, is to show the authority, because even in Goetic works or whenever you're doing magic and you are summoning any force, it doesn't mean you have to be rude, but you should show authority when you call upon anything and let them know that I am here to speak with you. I'm not backing down. Or I control this situation, so that it's known, or they will try to take control of it.
Oh yeah, well this thing. First of all, the guy. Totally, his life changed after this. He became like a really super spiritual person. You know, he didn't exactly become untraumatized, but that weight was taken off of him. And then, so after that happened, I sort of, without preparing for it, I hadn't done Goetia. I hadn't done any of this stuff since I was a kid. I read techniques of higher magic, and I read a couple other things as a young boy, maybe some Golden Dawn stuff, but I never was into ceremonial. I'm still not into ceremonial magic. I just do intuitively what I do. It just works. And a lot of the times I'm really literally arguing these things away from people. And I realized that these things can actually get scared of me. I used to be afraid of demons, and now I'm kind of realizing that these freaking things can get afraid. That was afraid of me. When I went, get the fuck out of my house, I got up in the thing's and that demon was afraid.
Now, do you think it's a demon, or do you think it's a parasitic entity of sorts? Because what I find happens a lot of times is it's more parasitic entities that are feeding off of someone than necessarily a demon, though demons do happen.
You're absolutely right. I think I'm using the demon because most people know, they think exorcism and demon. It's very rare that I actually encounter a real demon. Most of the time, it is what you call a parasitic entity, which could just be like an icky human. Like, imagine like some child molester died and they're trying to like leech onto something. Somebody that likes the pain. Obviously, whatever this thing was feeding off of the man's pain as a child. Yeah. Right? It was like, nom, 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 the pain of the child, nom, 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 like Cookie Monster. Like, nom, nom, nom,
That's what they do. They find ways to get you to react to it and feel certain emotions to be able to feed off that, to strengthen themselves, to continue to be able to do things.
Oh yeah, and this guy, and basically what I realized is I can sort of feel when I have them on myself. Like I didn't think that I could get them because I'm Mr. Good Guy. I'm super nice and try to do the right thing, and I don't really curse people or do black magic. I get them too. I get parasites on me, energy parasites. And I have to take them off myself. And in shamanism, it's like we're always purifying ourselves. We're always cleaning ourselves up off of these parasites. And they also jump off of the person. So remember, like the movie The Exorcist, right?
Yeah.
Famous movie. So at the end, when the priest is doing it, the demon jumps off of the girl onto the exorcist. Well, that's a Hollywood version of something that really happens. They really will jump to the most powerful, willful person in the room. They will jump on them.
Well, what I found is, I've learned over time, because I've done, some of these exorcisms as well, and I've been a part of demon work for quite a while, is very true. They did nail that correctly with the movie, though a lot of that movie did have a lot of error in it. I mean, they used Pazuzu as the demon in The Exorcist, which Pazuzu is actually a child protector in Mesopotamian lore, so it didn't really make sense. But at the end, you are correct. Whenever a entity is exorcised from a vessel or from a host, a lot of times they will jump on a person close to them that they think that they can latch onto, and that is the one problem that's wrong with Catholic exorcisms, is they believe in face-to-face standing in front of you and saying God name staring at you. And what happens, if you look at the record, is a lot of Catholic exorcists over the years have died at an early age, because they've taken on a lot of residue from the entities that they've been able to pull out of people that somehow still stuck to them a little bit. It's hard to get those roots out of you when it digs in deep and when you're doing it time and time again.
The priests have a lot of faith, but they don't necessarily have their third eyes open, right? So they can't see all the yucky stuff. Like,
because they're not pulling off then.
Yeah, shamans can feel it. Like, I can feel almost immediately when I have an attachment. I'll get an ache or a pain. It's usually localized in somebody's parts of my body. I call that an attachment point. It's like, ooh, that's a weird back pain. I didn't sprain my back. I didn't do anything weird to my back. I didn't move. Like, where is this ache coming from? And then I'll sort of tune into it. I'm like, fucking got a goddamn attachment on me. And I feel like a lot of these attachments are, you ever get a snapping turtle from a pond and you flip it over and there's leeches all over it?
Yeah.
That's what they are. They're just
riding
like
you. It's wild to think about, but I mean, it's very true. Anybody that works heavily in spiritual work knows that or should know at least, that you need to constantly be cleaning and cleansing to get these things off of you in your work. That's something I see in the left-hand path. That's an error by a lot of people, is they want to talk about working with daemon spirits and they call entity after entity after entity, and maybe they're doing it properly, maybe they're not, maybe they're getting communication or not. But the thing is you're now a lit torch in a giant black room. And now everything in the vicinity sees it glowing, and it comes to you. And if you don't, cleanse, it's getting you.
Yes, that's another interesting thing I want to talk about. So when I had this whole experience, when I did this first exorcism, something in me opened up that wasn't there before. A part of me either awoken, or maybe it was there in a past lifetime. And all of a sudden, I was very much Doctor Strange perception, feeling like I could read people's thoughts. Feeling very Neo that week all of a sudden. I'm like, something's really weird with me. Something has changed. I'm not the same person anymore after this experience. It, like, shook something in me.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Yeah. So, like, all of a sudden, I'm on, like, the subway train, and I'm looking around, and I would notice, like, certain people would give me, like, an evil stare all of a sudden for no reason, like a demonic stare. And then I would be like on the airport, and some woman would just freak out in front of me and start yelling at me. And I was realizing, holy shit, I'm kicking up demons in people. I'm kicking them up in people.
They're spotting you as something that they don't like because they're attached. They got themselves embedded, and they're seeing you come by, and they're recognizing that thing is
exactly.
Not a friend.
They're recognizing who I am and my whatever authority I have that I didn't even ask for, but I have. And I felt like, back to Neo in the Matrix, they were like the agents. Like the person would be sitting there, and all of a sudden they would get a weird look on their face, and I'd be like, holy shit, it's like the fucking Matrix. They're like, and they would become not the person. And at first I would be scared of them, but then I would start looking back at them and making funny faces, and then they would shake it off, which is another thing I want to talk about. First of all, there's a lot of different techniques that I use to get these things out of people. Sometimes there's the soft approach, like, come on, buddy, you really don't want to be doing this. Let's save ourselves time and energy. I don't want to have to call Kali to eat you up. What can we do to kind of move this along? Like, why are you here? And that's what's called spirit appeasement. So sometimes you're negotiating with these spirits to just get them. You really don't want to fight. You know what I'm saying? You just want to get them to go somehow. So if a spirit appeasement doesn't work, then you can have to kind of get tough. So getting tough sometimes means calling in a higher authority, but it's what people don't understand. It's the authority that the spirit recognizes. So if that's a Muslim spirit, it's only going to it'll recognize Allah and it'll recognize Muhammad. It might not recognize Jesus, right, as an authority. And that's something that I find interesting, is like each one of these spirits seems to have their own authority. And I think if you figure out what the authority of the spirit is rather than your own authority, like the Catholic priest with Jesus might not work on a Jewish Dybbuk spirit. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and it's important to what the religion also of the person being exorcised is as well, because they won't respond, because sometimes you need them to focus on the energy of this specific, let's say Jesus, focus on the energy of Jesus while I talk Jesus names and cast this thing out of you. That spirit has to be afraid of what you're calling or respect that entity, and also, that person you're talking to has to want to be saved by that. If I'm telling you that I'm going to work with, let's say we're doing straight demon work, if I'm going to work with Lucifer to cast out XYZ spirit, if that person's a Catholic, it's really not going to do much for them if I'm doing that type of work. So it kind of goes both ways. It's like two-headed.
There's also a lot of this, which is bravado, believe it or not. First of all, there's a lot of, on the demons end, that's bravado. A lot of these spirits want you to think that they're Pazuzu or payment, and they're not. They're chump change. Mm-hmm. They're nickel and dime guys. King Payman doesn't have, in my opinion, doesn't have time to fucking possess little kids. That's just my opinion. If Lucifer doesn't really have time to possess a little kid, whatever Lucifer's doing, what's the point of possessing a little kid? It seems stupid to me. So to me, those spirits that people, Lucifer's, and it's not Lucifer, it's some spirit that wants you to think that it's Lucifer because it's a chump.
And it gets even more excitement out of you if it says that. If you're talking to a spirit and you use a ghost box or use anything and you say, "Who are you?" and it comes in and says, "Satan," then right then and there you're like, "Oh, shit." And it piques more fear out of you, which makes it more powerful.
And then they feed the fear, right? And so then, if they're eating your fear like Cookie Monster, because that's what they want to do, is make you afraid. That's why you have to kind of take the piss out of these things. I stopped being afraid of them a long time ago. When they make a scary face, I laugh at it. I'd be like, "What are you auditioning for Halloween Spirit? I think they're hiring this week." Yeah, and they go, "Huh?" I'd be like, "Yeah, make that scary face again, because that looks like a mask I saw in Halloween Spirit. I want to take a picture of it." And they're like, "Huh?" It's like you can't even give them the time of day, especially when they try to scare you. I'm sarcastic. I'm like, "Ooh, boo-hoo, I'm so scared. Oh, you're going to get me. Oh, boy."
And hopefully in a case like that, it doesn't end up being one of the bigger names. But like you said, I think most of the larger... I think there's a difference there. I mean, honestly, I feel that there's daemons and demons, and I feel that everybody uses the term demon, but I think that the higher forces out there, Payman and Amemon and Azazel and all these different spirits that you can work with, they are busy doing other things, and they are more of a demonic current, whereas these things
they're old
demons.
Gods. I mean, from my understanding, Azazel and Payman both come from Azazos, which was like the Palmarian jinn god. So, which gets back to me, the most the most dramatic exorcisms that I've ever done, which you'd be like, this should be a fucking movie, Craig, and be on, movie of the week, have been against the jinn. The jinn. The jinn are no joke. They have the will of 40 wizards, and they don't go down without a fight. But once you get them to their knees, then they want you to serve you in a weird way. They go, you are my master now. And you're like, do I really want this fucking disgusting thing to serve me?
There's a lot of power there, though.
There is a lot of power, but it's like some people, to do my work, I really can't have a lot of icky things on me and serving me. I have to kind of be clean, you know? And I get offers all the time. People be like, oh my God, Craig, a demon offered to serve you? I'm like, yeah. And I said no. They're like, why would you say no? Some kind of jinn wants to be your servant? And I'm like, man, everything comes with a price as far as I'm concerned. Nothing's for free. No service comes without any cost.
No, there's always something that has to be paid in cost for anything that you gain. So anytime you are asking for it to do something for you or having it do something for you, there is always some sort of payment, whether small or large. So, Dan, what are your thoughts right now?
Thoughts on the jinn?
On the jinn, on the work that Lepus, does. Jump on in.
Yeah, well, I'm fascinated by shamanism. I work in metaphysics, so there's a little bit of, mediumship in there. I'm a channel as well. I do what I call as reality mechanics. But I've known several shamans over the years, and it's really cool because you guys are kind of like warlocks and wizards to me. You know what I mean? It's pretty fascinating, the abilities that you have. Like you said, it was something that you kind of stumbled into. Like you mentioned that you didn't ask for it, but yet it's generally, when it comes to you synchronistically, it's the people who have the strongest power in that field. Now, I'm just saying, I think it's really cool what you do, and I've known several shamans who are very powerful. What I wanted to comment on the jinn is, I did a lot of research on them, and I met a guy who was asked to try to remove one from somebody, and from what I understand, you don't want them to serve you or be with you for any reason, because once they attach, they make like a soul bond. I'm told that
yes,
they can stay with you for lifetimes.
Become your quarine. They actually can become your quarine, which is a type of jinn that's wrapped around your soul. It's like your soul mate.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's not something that I think anybody would invite. These guys aren't genies like you see in the movies. They have powers, and they can do things within your life, whether it's, granting wishes or, causing terrible harm.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that I was going to mention is, at first when the jinn spirit came through somebody, it was very specific. I was very specific in the fact that, the 3 or 4 the people the spirit even said, I'm a jinn. They even said it. It wasn't even I had to guess it. They all had this very sort of caveman way to them that was kind of like, I could almost say it's the Klingon version of the spirit world. They were very Klingon-ish, like, I shall serve you, like Worf. It was very strange talking to these jinns. It was like definitely talking to like Klingons that had their own set of rules for doing things. And it was very yep.
It's interesting that you mentioned that how they are, because when we're talking about entity attachments and these parasites, I also like that Garrett mentioned, we want to kind of separate sometimes the terminology from demons, from parasites and entities, because there are just literally, if you could see the type of stuff that is swimming around us at all times, your mouth would drop. You would just gape open. That we have what's called as a fourth density. So we're third density beings, and in the fourth density is an astral realm. It's like a non-physical realm where there's all kinds of these creepy crawlies that gravitate towards people who are going through traumatic experiences or have a lot of negativity in their life, and they will attach to you the way that we've been discussing. And there are beings, just like the jinn, that have never actually ever been human. or lived a human life. And so their culture and their behavior is very different than ours. So when you mentioned that they were like the Klingon and they spoke differently and had a different cadence, that resonates with me a lot. I'm sure that these creatures have, they're trying to emulate English to the best of their ability, but they're probably
it was like Castle Grayskull. Now the other thing, I'm sorry, it was hard to hear. I didn't want to speak over you.
Yeah.
Was this I can't explain it. Do you ever see that episode of like Star Trek when like Captain Kirk has to like trick the androids with logic that doesn't make sense, and the logic kind of makes it does not compute? Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of head games with these things, and you can actually break them down by fucking with them mentally, if that makes sense. Break their spirits. That's really what this is about. It's about breaking a spirit. You have a very willful thing that has a will, and you're a very willful wizard, and you're not going to take no for an answer. One of your two spirits is getting broken. One of these two spirits is getting broken. And like the jinn comes at you really strong with the spirit, but once you break its spirit, I hate to say it, almost like an animal, it wants to serve you.
Well, I think it's just... It ultimately comes down to who has the stronger will. Like as you said, I mean, if you show dominance and will and can beat it down, then it succumbs to the greater force, just like animals do. I mean, they bow down to the stronger of the pack.
It's very, 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 very strange. I mean, there's also different kinds of attachments. For instance, there's human attachments. Sometimes I met a girl. I thought she came to me. She thought she had demons on her. And then she's like, they're not demons. Stop. They're not demons. And I'm like, what is it? She goes, they're my ancestors. And she was from Africa. And all of a sudden she was like, my ancestors are right here in the room with us right now. And I was like, oh shit. Now what?
that's a trippy situation. You're like, okay, I didn't see that coming.
Right, and then she's like, okay. I'm like, well, what do you see? She goes, well, they're like African shamans, and they're kind of pissed off that you summon them. I'm like, okay, what do you do now? It's very much thinking in the moment. I'm like, okay, what do we do now? How do we make these spirits like them? I just happened to have a piece of ebony, beautiful black piece of ebony that from Africa. I was like, show them this piece of ebony. Say I'm a good guy. Show them this feather. It's from an ostrich. Show them this, show them that. And after I showed them all these cool things that I guess were shamany, they were like, oh, yeah, we like you. She's like, yeah, they're starting to like you now because of the things you're showing them. I'm like, shh. Oh, boy, that was quick. Because I don't really want angry African shamans in my home.
When that's one thing a lot of people don't realize, and Daniel's touched on a little bit, is whenever you get a sight, no matter what kind of form it is, whether it's clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, whether you're an exorcist or a spiritual worker, a magician, ceremonialist, it doesn't matter. If you can tap into your third eye, and I think as you mentioned earlier, Lepus, with the Catholic priest, I never really thought about that. I did think about the fact that they do face the host, and then a lot of times it jumps on them. But you're right, after the fact, trying to keep their lives clean of parasites, they really can't because they don't believe in meditation and doing a lot of the things. I was actually reading a thing earlier about how the Pope, I don't know if it was the current Pope or not, but how the Pope at one point had said, that any form of yoga or Hinduism is pretty much going to be met with hell. And, their views on that's a little bit crazy. So you're right. They probably don't open their third eye, and that gets to them.
But some of their stuff that they do actually works. Now, I had this guy in here that was the nicest guy in the world. I didn't expect it. This is why I always know it's real, because it's usually like the person's not like, take this demon out of me. Then it's usually an attachment. It's usually when someone's next to me and out of the blue, they just turn into a monster. Then I know that it's something different. Because that's the difference when you have somebody that's just a normal person and in 5 minutes they're just a monster. You're like, what the fuck is going on here? So that's one telltale that it's not like that there's something definitely there. And that when you kick them up, it's also another thing is like, I don't want to necessarily be kicking up demons wherever I go because I don't want to be at war. So I've had to use magic to help me protect myself psychically and also camouflage myself. I don't want demons to see me all the time. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I mean, you're trying to avoid, attachments yourself. Excuse me, attachments yourself, as things will then hunt you out.
Yeah, I don't want to be at war all the time. And by the way, sometimes you don't have to be at war with these things, because sometimes they're just like, in the end, they're little kids that need love. I mean, a couple of times I've come on strong, ready to go, blazing guns. I'm ready to invoke Solomon. I'm like, I'll fucking get Solomon here myself if I have to. I'll go in there with guns blazing and stuff. And it turns out that this thing kind of just needed a hug.
Yeah, it could, yeah, I mean, it's just jumping ship to person to try to find somewhere it belongs.
And it just needs to be understood, and it's just kind of a broken spirit. A lot of these spirits are just broken, fucked up spirits and not evil. It's very rare that I've actually see a legitimately evil thing. It's mostly just broken and gross. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
Pure evil is just something it's rare. So when somebody comes to me, I turn away so many people, by the way, that hit me up on the internet, and they're like, Craig, I have a demon. First of all, if you think you have a demon, 99% of the time, you probably have psychosis. Go to a psychiatrist and go do that first. And I always send to the people, I go through a list of things to make sure that they're not psychotic, they're not schizophrenic, they're not multiple personality disorder. And I'm not a professional, but I know the telltale signs of those kind of things because I've been exposed to it. So, for instance, someone's not sleeping. If someone says, okay, I'm not sleeping very much, yeah, I'm having a hard time sleeping and I'm hearing voices, that will make you hear voices, not sleeping. It causes psychosis, right?
Absolutely, it does.
So you really want to be a responsible shaman and make sure that every single mental health explanation has been taken care of. Is it a dissociative disorder? Is it a psychosis? And I just know intuitively when it's just not those things. It's something in my gut that just says it's not. And also the way it challenges me. They're not psychotic where they're off in a loop and going from this and this and blah, blah, blah. They're very specific. Who the hell are you? What authority do you think you have? Oh. They know exactly what they're doing.
Well, they do. I mean, they're very intelligent beings. I mean, they're not dumb to be able to get away with hiding in someone for a period of time. You have to be somewhat smart because a lot of times the host doesn't know there's something there. They have no clue that something's going on. And the people around them really just know that something maybe has changed in that person, but 9 out of 10 times you're not thinking, oh, my brother or sister or my mom and dad or my whoever has, an attachment to them. You're just thinking, why are they acting that way? So they are smart to be able to hide and like you were saying earlier, without opening the third eye, you're not seeing these things. So to most of the world, this sounds so far out, it sounds so wild in a lot of the things that we talk about. But if you can't see, how do you see? So whenever you open your third eye and you start to see all of these beings, you realize what is all around us and how intelligent they are and how much just walking through a certain set of woods that you're not supposed to be in can get something attached to you. Like you said earlier with the African spirits, I've heard accounts where people have had things attached to them by swimming in small ponds and things, and the nature spirits of that area did not take kindly to them being there and attach themselves. So that is a big thing.
Oh, yeah. I've had stories. People come to me. They're like, oh, my God, we went to this festival and I did a bunch of ketamine and now my friend has a thing on her and went in the forest. So I'm like, yeah, that's probably not what you should do because ketamine breaks down the barriers of your spirit a little bit and things can get in and things can get out. You got to be careful with dissociatives and certain psychedelics being too open and places that you don't know that you are because it creates holes in your aura, those things. Even though they let you see things, they let you see the little holes, but the same hole that you're seeing out could let something in.
Exactly. You're opening holes that can't then be closed after they're done. And that actually goes along with one of our comments right now from one of our listeners. We got Eldoria Crow saying, using hard drugs and using hard drugs all the time allows entities to attach to. So you just nailed that. That was almost perfect timing between the two. You putting that.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, I'm going to say there are classifications of entities. I do think that what I'm going to use the word demon just because it's the best word we have, right? Like the 7 deadly sins, like gluttony, fear, and blah, blah, blah. I do think that there are classes of demons. Like, I think that there's demons, what I call demons of want. Want meaning the things that causes addiction in people. I get a lot of people with heroin addiction that I try to do shamanism on, and people addicted to crystal meth, and they always have that want for something. There's always that hunger and that want. And I feel like there's spirits that keep you in that state of want. They keep you in that state of want. They want to push you in that state of want. So, and that's something that I think we all wrestle with, a lot of those demons of want. Wanting more money and wanting more this and not feeling satisfied with your life. I think we all kind of wrestle with those. How many people do you know that have wrestled with some kind of addiction? So
here's a question for you.
Yep.
Let's say hypothetically, somebody doesn't have access to a shaman, but it's pretty conclusive that they have some sort of entity attachment. Do you have any sort of exercises that you would suggest to somebody actions that they could take to help expel?
Okay, so number one, here's the things that I would do for people. Number one, I always feel that there's a part in the body that these things can hide in. There's almost like a place. And if you even ask yourself, your body, be like, body, tell me where this thing is hiding. You're going to feel something on your shoulder or neck or lower back. And being able to tune into the attachment point at least gives you a target, yeah? It's not just, it's somewhere attached by something. And I also do shamanistic body work, which sounds so cheesy, right? It sounds like a way to pick up chicks at a party. But I do shamanistic body work, and I find that there's these points, these attachment points connected to the body, that the thing, almost like a hook, that the thing is attached. The body and the spirit, they're not disconnected. They're all connected together. The mental, the spiritual, and the emotional, and the body. It's like, so there's a part of your body that's going to probably be manifesting in. So figure out the part of your body. If you really think, it sounds really cheesy, but holy water is great. Holy water is great, and it's something that everybody can make. I don't know if they teach it in like Wizard 101, but honestly, you just take some water and you bless it with whatever deity that you want to bless it with. If you want to bless it in the name of Allah, you say prayers from the Quran over it. If you want to make holy water, you can make Jewish holy water. People are like, you can't make Jewish holy. Hell, you can't. You take some water, you say some Jewish prayers over it, put the power of Yahweh into the water, and drink that shit down. Drink it, drink it, drink it. I don't know why it works, but these things don't like it. They don't like it.
It's because it's an act of sovereignty. It's an act of self-empowerment. It's a free will act of empowerment, I think, is what charges it with that intention.
Yeah, you made the magical water. You've made it magic water. You've created magic water. And when you're like this one guy that had a djinn in him, I freaking was freaking out. Once I realized it was a djinn, I was like, I don't even know how to get a djinn. Well, there's special prayers that deal specifically with Arabic jinn, and I literally found the prayers, and I prayed that I don't even speak Arabic, but I figured it out, and I prayed over the water. I made the guy say the Arabic prayers, pray over the water. I said, pray over this water. You're going to say this Arabic prayer. You're going to say it 10 times over the water, and you're going to drink it. And I said, you're going to drink again, drink again. I said, drink it 10 times until you vomit. So he drank it, and then all of a sudden, boom, he vomited. And it wasn't just his vomit. It was like a weird, creepy ectoplasm vomit that didn't look right at all. And he was like, oh, my God, thank you so much. It's working. Thank you so much. Whatever you're doing is working. So, and like I said, keep drinking the stuff. I just keep drinking. And then I put him in the shower. I said, oh, you know what? If that works, why don't we bless the shower? I said, in God's name, let the shower be holy water. You keep saying that. In God's name, let the shower be holy water. Let this water wash over me and anoint me. And he's like, okay. I said, get in the shower and do it. Just do it. He's like, just let the shower anoint me. He said, who do you believe in, Jesus? He goes, yeah, I believe in Jesus. Say, this is the blood of Christ. And drink the water. Say, this is the blood of Christ. Say it. And I'm yelling at him like a coach. He goes, this is the blood of Christ. Drink it, drink it. He's vomiting. And then at the end of all this dramatic thing, where literally his spirit was arguing with me, and his spirit was like, I didn't like I have to be honest, I don't like the rudeness of the spirits. So it can go, would laugh like that. I said, you know what? If you're going to laugh like a pig, I'm going to treat you like a pig. And he went, huh? I went, that's right. I said, you know what we do to pigs? You know what we do to pigs? And I put my finger across my throat. I said, that's what we do to pigs, and that's what we're going to do to you tonight. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, motherfucker, you know who you just met tonight? And he was like, what? I go, you met your angel of judgment, bitch. This is your judgment night. Guess what? I'm your angel of judgment, motherfucker. And it was like, no, who are you? And I was like, I said, you want to know my name? You ask the angels my name, bitch. Ask the angels who I am. I'm not even going to tell you my name. You call the angels and you say, what's that shaman's name? I'm not even going to tell you my name. And they're like, And I remember I said, it was pouring outside. I said, get the fuck outside now. And I pushed him outside. And I say, this rain feels good on me, but it'll burn you, bitch. And he goes, it's burning me. It's burning me. I go, that's right. It's burning you, doesn't it? It hurts. It hurts. And I basically tortured this demon until it left. You know, I tortured it. I had to be a bigger dick than it was.
I mean, if you find it working for the purpose, you know, of getting it to leave a vessel that it's harming, then absolutely. I mean, you have to do what needs to be done. If all other courses of action didn't seem to get it to obey you, then, you know, you have to get it out of there to help people. I mean, it becomes almost a calling of yours, like you said, whether you like it or not. It is now a task that you are kind of entitled to have to do. Comes along with the gift, I guess. And we have some other comments going on here. Let's take a look. I watched a lot of people become open vessels to parasites because of drugs. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Let's see. It says, Freighter, how do you conduct your exorcisms, if you don't mind me asking? Myself, I use a little bit of a different technique. I mean, we all have our own methods of doing so.
Mine are very Hollywood. But
yours are well, they're your own thing. Everybody has their own way of doing it, and if it works...
Is there a book? Is there a right way to do it?
I was just going to say, there's really no right or wrong way of doing it. If it works for you, then an exorcism really is to relieve a host of the attachment that's clung to it. So, I mean, it's not really clean business. And I have done a couple in my lifetime, and the ones that I have been a part of, I have used either methods with angelic spirits that I've worked with. I have actually used Raphael, Michael, Uriel, and Gabriel, and Metatron. Works with depending upon the person I was working with in the situation. And for a lot of the demonic work, because that could be considered exorcism as well, where I do call upon spirits and then I will banish them out afterwards. Different workings I've done with demonology. I will usually use a pantheon of different demons and spirits that I work with in accordance to who I'm calling. So not necessarily pulling it out of someone, but when I am doing ceremonial magic, I do work with a set pantheon of spirits. 10 in total are my main number, but I do work with others beyond that. Those are just the spirits I work with daily. And a method that I'm actually planning on releasing here soon on video, folks. So I have a course that's coming up that I'm going to be dropping for everybody. If you're looking to learn a very solid method of invoking and banishing, I will be releasing something on that.
Frater, I was going to also mention, I'm also, I think, by heart probably closest to like a chaos shaman. You know, I don't, whatever paradigm seems to work is a paradigm that I put on almost like a glove. So if I'm dealing with a Chinese family, I try to get into the Taoist paradigm, and I try to use Taoist entities. If I'm going into a voodoo situation, I'm going to try to use the African entities. So
yeah, like Papa Legba or someone like that you can.
Yeah, I'm going to just
resonate with.
I want to go into be able to put away my beliefs and be a blank slate and try on something completely different. And I didn't think that I could bring in an African spirit because I'm a Jewish. Like, what was my connection? And I didn't think that I could work with Chinese dragon spirits. Who knew? So, like, I work with dragon spirits. I work with Kali. That's another thing I want to talk about is sometimes you call a spirit in to help you, and sometimes you call a spirit into you, into yourself, and you let a spirit ride you. And that's another thing that shamans do in exorcisms, and it's kind of an advanced technique. It's one thing to call Kali into a room. It's another thing to become Kali and to let yourself be Kali. And it's kind of not something I like to do, but it's kind of like one of my last resort things. It's like I'll become, in my brain or in my soul, I'm becoming a dragon. I'm not Craig anymore. I'm a dragon, whatever that means. I'm becoming a dragon. I'm not Craig. I'm a dragon. Or I'm not Craig anymore. I'm Kali who eats demons. And I feel weird. I feel like all of a sudden like an animal, like I want to drink blood. I don't feel like Craig anymore. It takes me a while to cool off after I call a spirit into me like that. But it scares the shit out of these demons. They don't want anything to do with Kali. Nothing to do with her. They want to run the hell away from that stuff.
Well, rightfully so. Kali is one spirit that is very fierce and is known to be a demon eater, and she comes with wrath and with swiftness when she does come. So very fascinating to be able to work with her. I've worked with her on a ritual setting, not so much on an exorcist setting, but she does bring a resonance certainly with her. I'm just reading some of the comments, sorry here. Can you just offer that spirit that is possessing the host as an offering to a more powerful demon? I've done stuff like that and it works. You possibly could offer that spirit as a offering to a bigger spirit, like we just kind of talked about. Once again, synchronicity there. Kali does eat demons in some cases, as lore goes, so I've never done work with her in that manner, but like I said, she does make things happen very swiftly when you work with her, and just blast roadblocks out of your way. Dan, what are your thoughts right now?
Well, I was thinking about all of your guys' methods, and I also have my own as well, but I think that they're all really valid and relevant. You know, I was also correlating what you mentioned about, you know, almost summoning the spirits into you. It's similar to a type of channeling that I do. Are you familiar with channeling as well?
Well, yeah, channeling, transmedium channeling, same thing, right? Transmedium, letting the spirit into you.
I do that as well, and then I verbal channel, so I'll bring them into sort of into my third eye or my brain or whatever it is. I like open myself up like a phone in a way, and then I can verbally communicate as the entity as well. I was just something that I was thinking about when you mentioned how you sort of bring them into you. I was wondering if it was similar to that.
I would say that you're going to say something, Father?
No.
Father. I'd say it's to me to bring in like. We all love the movie Excalibur, right? Like the spell of making where Merlin like calls the dragon. It's like the most powerful spell, but he can't control it because the dragon actually he pays a price for it, for having that much power when he actually summons the dragon into him.
Right.
So, you know, I do a little dragon magic, and to me, that's the root of dragon magic. To me, is being able to call dragon spirits into you. And it's not something that I recommend for like kids work on, you know, Magic 101, because dragons are like crazy energy. They're fierce. Yeah. They're powerful, and, you know, they're unpredictable. And if I'm like in a situation where I have to like literally try to call a dragon into me, I'm like, it takes me just to feel normal again. It could take me 3 or 4 hours just to calm down and not feel like I want to kill somebody. Like, I'll just feel like a predator. I just feel completely not myself. So that's another thing I want to tell you also is, like, these spirits too, they can see us astrally. So when I'm thinking that I'm a dragon, right, that motherfucker is seeing a dragon. Guess what? That motherfucker is seeing a dragon because I'm projecting that dragon astrally. He can see, and they've even said it. One time I didn't even say anything to the girl, and I summoned the dragon. She goes, I can see your dragon. I can see your dragon. I was like, bitch, you're damn right you see the dragon.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is a lot of work of exorcism is done on the astral plane, and a lot of times some methods aren't even done really physically at all. They are simply sitting in the same room as the host and going into deep vision, and in there doing the work and meeting the parasite on the astral realm and plucking them out that way, and then when you come back you can actually dispose of them all internally without ever really touching the host. So if you are using a different type of method where you're going to the astral and you're becoming something else using the aid of something else, it would make sense that they would see it as that, and you could do work that way. It's a very interesting take.
So now I'm going to teach you every little, like, guru or teacher has given me added to my exorcism. For instance, like Buddha magic. Like Buddha, when Buddha fought Mara, the devil, and Mara shot the arrows at Buddha, Buddha turned the arrows into flowers. So when these spirits come at me, they're like, I'll kill you, I very calmly says, I will turn your sword into flowers and they will fall at my feet. And the demon goes, And I go, so we're like, I go every time, and they go, fuck you, wizard. I said, every time you say fuck you to me, it becomes flowers at my feet. I say fuck you again, and make me more flowers. And they go, no, more flowers? Fuck you. And I was like, thank you, more flowers, please. And that was just something I just thought, oh my God, Buddha, that's kind of cool. I'd like to be able to turn a demon's arrows into flowers at my feet. What a great power that would be, right?
That's wild.
So that's Buddha, that's Buddhism, right? Basically, it's almost non-action and just knowing that you're the one. If you're the universe, how could the demon's arrow affect you if you're the universe? That was another thing I was going to say. I keep saying that's another thing because there's a lot of things I want to say. I remember when I was fighting this girl, 5'2", she had this crazy jinn in her. And she was like, I will kill you. And in my mind, I remember watching the Doctor Strange make all the duplicates of himself. And I said, in my brain, I imagined myself unfolding like a deck of cards that there was 1,000 Craigs. She goes, I'll kill you. And I said, which one will you kill? There's 1,000 of me. And she literally went, I see 1,000 of you. I see 1,000 of you. What kind of magic is this? I see 1,000. So was I hypnotizing her? I might have been. I might have been just hypnotizing her. Whatever it was, she was seeing what I wanted her to see. And she was flipping out that I could make her see 1,000 of me somehow. I didn't know that I was doing it. I didn't know I had Doctor Strange abilities. I still don't even know how I did it. The most important thing is I willed it. I willed her to see it, and she saw it. And she saw 1,000 of me, and it freaked her out. She goes, how are you doing this? How are you doing this magic? I was like, there's more magic to come. And then she goes, I will kill you. And I was like, then I said, how shall you stab the ocean? I'll become the ocean. How will you stab me then? She goes, how will I stab the ocean? What? And you could see almost like the confusion setting in. She goes, I will stab you with a sword. And I was like, and I will become the steel. What will you do then when I become the steel of the sword?
It brings into question, really it brings into question the fabric of reality that when these things are confronted and you are working with or against them, if you can make a situation become what you say or believe, it brings into question the fabric of reality altogether. How does it work? How do you, are these things a part of us somehow? Maybe they are still external. I go back to formula that I work with a lot. I don't want to jump too much into that right now, but that they're external and internal beings. So whenever you believe that in your own mind, they then believe it too. That's the internal part, but they are outside of you. It brings certain things into question for sure. But before we go too much further, I did want to ask you, because we're actually running out of time here, what if someone were to need to contact you for work for any reason, if they're in your vicinity or area?
I would say, listen, I have a Facebook group. I think it's private, but you might be able to look it up, called Spiritus Obscura. I don't really look for clients, and I do some referral stuff. People just, it's enough the demons that show up at my front door. Like, that's enough for me to freaking deal with without, like, going around with my business card. But if it's somebody that's, it's got to be a referral. It can't be somebody that's under psychiatric care. I won't even entertain somebody under psychiatric care or who's on medication. So they would probably find me on Facebook. So I would say that's probably it, through the Spiritus Obscura, my group. If you find my group, you're going to find me. I don't make myself easy to find, because honestly, crazy people call me up. I mean, half these people are insane.
I believe you, because I do paranormal work too, and I get a lot of very, very peculiar and strange messages.
Like, there's demons under my toilet bowl. There's demons under my toilet bowl. I don't know, ma'am. Demons. Why would demons be under your toilet bowl? Under only that. It's like all kinds of crazy stuff.
All kinds of
crazy. I keep
seeing
the number 13. And everywhere I go, well, you're probably just paranoid.
Yeah,
I said, well, what?
Put down the pipe. I get a lot of that myself. I completely understand. Well, before we run out of time here, Dan, any last questions for the man?
No, I would just like to thank you very much for not only being on this show, but doing the work that you do. I know that you're helping a lot of people. I know that your services are needed, and as somebody who works in similar ways, I also work by referral only as well, so I can respect that. Thank you for your service, man. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, man, thanks a lot. And if you guys obviously referred somebody to me, I would take it seriously. I do sometimes I do remote work, like I've done haunting work. I've gotten better at that stuff. It's just a little bit taxing, so I pick and choose my projects because it's a lot, It's like really the dirtiest job. It's out of all the things you can do in spiritualism, it's the cesspool cleaner.
It is.
Job.
You are the janitor. You certainly are. But you know what? It has to be done. And it's important work, and I've done it myself, so I respect it. But, as Dan said, thank you so much, Lepus Rex, for coming on the show tonight, for sharing with us your stories, your experiences. We really appreciate that. We'll certainly talk to you next time.
All right, guys, and thanks a lot for the confirmation. Just hearing it from you guys, I mean, I think we're all kind of in agreement that, these things really are there. You got to wash yourself and wash your spirit, or they're going to get on you, whether you like it or not.
They do, and they drag you down into something no one wants, and I'm a big, firm believer in daily and weekly cleansings of your home and your temple, which is yourself, and your actual temple if you have one. But no, absolutely in agreement.
All right, guys, thanks a lot. Good luck to everybody, and good luck with the show.
Thank you so much. You take care and have a wonderful evening.
Bye-bye.
Well, very interesting, Dan. I mean, I several things he said resonated with me because I've experienced similar, not so much in the manner that he has, but I have seen people kind of change afterwards, a weight being taken off their shoulders once something has left them. I do believe in having to work within a paradigm that spirit understands, because if you're working with certain spirits, and say you were to call upon the Spirit of Jesus Christ to get that thing out of you, it might not respond to that because it has no authority over it whatsoever. Right. So you have to stick within certain framework. Now, as a ceremonial magician, I work specific frameworks. I know what spirits I'm working with, how to do the incantations. I don't try to dabble with that. That can get dangerous, but it does work. As Eldoria Crow was asking earlier, my paradigm would be in demonolatry. It would be working with spirits all within that paradigm that answer to one another in case something were to need to be done. I don't use angelic names too often, though if I'm working goetic work, I will. So if anybody out there is listening that's in the magic community, it just depends. It just depends on what's needed at the time, but I try to treat all spirits with respect. It's not too often I come across something too volatile.
Yeah. I hear that. Well, he was a very interesting gentleman, and as I mentioned, being familiar with shamanism over the years, knowing many of them, it definitely sounds like he's right in it, thick of it. You know, he's doing the work, and so it was really cool to hear his stories and experiences. And like I said, I mean, I'm just glad there are people out there doing the work he's doing.
No, I agree. Well, why don't we tell the folks out there our next few episodes, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up for the evening. Folks, you have requested it, and we're glad to bring it. July 8th, we will be doing a specific topic show, just Daniel and myself, back to our normal topics of specific discussions, and this one is on Organism 46B, which I do know a slight bit about, but I'll be doing my research from now till then. That was a fan request, so thank you guys for sending that in. And again, that is Organism 46B on July 8th. We have July 22nd, interview with psychic and medium Tara Bunatello. I've seen some of her work before, very impressive. We have an interview on August 19th with David Weiss, who is a very well-known flat earth expert. And then September 9th, folks, a very, very, important episode to me that I'm excited for is going to be Missing 411. As Daniel and I have talked about, if you've not seen the documentaries of Missing 411 on Netflix, you should go check it out. It is pretty mind-bending, and I think Daniel and I will have a lot to talk about on this specific one.
That episode's going to run late.
You better set your schedules. We're going to be here for a little bit. Oh, man, we got some good comments coming in. Thank you guys so much for your comments this evening. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed yourself and everything sounded wonderful. As I said, we may have a whole new setup we're using as of tonight on, and not that we had a bad one before. I just think this will run a little bit better. So if you like the sound or think we should do anything different, please let us know. As always, if you have any suggestions or guests you'd like to see on the show, hit us up on our Facebook at Celestial Oddities Pair of Normal Guys podcast page. It's a group page. And then you can hit us up also at celestialoddities@gmail.com. And Dan, any last moments or any last words before we close out?
Oh, one thing that I will just say is in an effort to extend the length of Season 2, for any listeners out there, we will be adding additional episodes of the special call-ins. So if you have your stories, you want to get them in on the show, these will be booked out pretty far in advance, but I will say that we are going to be adding more caller-in specials. So I personally have gotten some requests for people who would like to share their stories on the air, so we're going to be adding some episodes for that as well.
No, I'm very excited for that. Last week went well despite the difficulties we had, and it will only get better as we go. So if you're out there and you have a wonderful story of an experience you had, please let us know and we'll bring it on the show. Other than that, folks, we do want to thank you for another great episode of Celestial Oddities, and we will catch you in 2 weeks.
Have a good night, guys.